The 1965 Pontiac 2x2 coming up next on Monster Hobbies What's in the Box. Hello once again, model car builders. Well, today the Pontiacs are coming in 2x2. Hurrah, hurrah. We have this 1965 Pontiac 2x2 by AMT ERTL from back in the day. But before we get to looking at this great model kit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with all your friends and family. Pound the notification bell so that every time I make a new video, you are the first one to see it. And now, without further ado, let's get this thing up to 100 likes, and then we will open up the box on our table. In 1965, Pontiac redesigned its large production cars, including the Catalina, the Grand Prix, the Star Chief, and the Bonneville. And this great AMT model kit reflects the changes. This Pontiac Catalina 2+2 was known as the GTO's bigger brother because this was the race performance type of Pontiac. This model kit came out under the Round 2 banner the RC2 banner in 2003, and this is tooled up from an older kit. This one has the tricarbs in it, as well as the nice interior and side panels, as you can see on the side of this box. And if we turn it over this way, you can see that the 2+2, same pictures in here. It's a skill level 2 kit for ages 10 and up, requires glue and paint to put it together. Now, I have built one of the AMT Pontiac kits. This is the 1965 Pontiac Bonneville, as you can tell here in the side script. This was a very good model to put together. The Bonneville has the chrome underneath here, of course, and the nice stock hubcaps. Goes together really well and is a beautiful model once you put it together. This one came from the Prestige series kits, which came out in 1989 and included a stand with a pen to hold it. So let's just move the Bonneville out of the way and get back to our Pontiac 2+2 kit, where I will just remove the lid and show you guys the instructions inside. So let's just move this out of the way, and once we see the instructions, we'll get back and take a look at our plastic parts. So now I'll just unfold this here. You can see the nice artwork. You could actually copy this here and then give it to your kids to color in if you got kids. Kids that are a bit younger, or you can color it in yourself just to get some ideas of your paint job upcoming. There are nice detailed history sitting right in here, telling you all about it. Oh, they give you some little backstory here. Ace Wilson and the crew at Royal Pontiac specially prepared a 65 2+2 that went well beyond the stocker's 376 horsepower and was campaigned by David E. Davis across the pages of Car and Driver magazine. Davis produced some unbelievable numbers like 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.9 seconds. So this is similar to like an AC Cobra. And 13.8 seconds in the quarter mile at 108 miles an hour. That made the 4,400-pound Pontiac move like nobody's business. Okay, so there's some great things here. Motor Trends tested the stock 338 horsepower 2+2 was closer to reality. They ran the car from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 8 seconds. So some neat history on there. Now, I'll just zoom in the camera so we get an idea of how this all looks. So here we have the 65 Pontiac 2+2 instructions. It says here, construction note, you can build your Pontiac Bonneville as stock. So these instructions are the same as the Pontiac Bonneville, even though it's clearly a 2+2. Or you can build it custom. Below shows the stock engine assembly in step 2, and 3 shows the custom. Okay, so here we have our cylinder heads going on to the engine block, which also includes the transmission sitting in here. which appears to be, just based off this picture, appears to be a standard transmission, but we'll take a look at that a little more closely when we look at the actual plastic pieces. Okay, so here comes step 2, and this of course is our stock motor, as they call out for. So we're adding in our plated valve covers, the stock intake manifold and carburetor, our air cleaner. Funny, it says air cleaner, paint. Doesn't actually say what color to paint it. Alright, there's our alternator going on here. The fan is silver. The pulleys are red. Sorry, pulleys red, belt. Pulleys are red. The belt is flat black, is what they're calling out for here. And if we look just before that, they're saying that the engine transmission are steel, the cylinder heads are steel, and so on. Pontiac used a metallic steel blue color called Pontiac Engine Blue, so that could also be that color that they're calling for in the AMT instruction sheets. Now, if we move down here, there's our custom engine, which actually was also a Pontiac optional motor for that year. We have the 3 carburetors, which was a popular performance upgrade back in this era of the 60s, and a manifold as well. Pardon me, my lips are sticking together. But all the other components are shared with the stock engine for this assembly. Okay, so now we get into our interior. Let's go back a little bit. So our interior here consists of our steering wheel. It says the column is interior color. So there must be a chart on this that lists the different colors that the cars came in. There's a stock shifter, which is just a straight up and down stick. Or there's the custom one, which is bent over a little bit. A T-handle. There's also a tachometer in here. The instrument panel. And here our bucket seats are molded to our center console, as well as we have our interior tub, which is molded in one piece. These have the loops on them, so I suspect that this kit was part of a screw bottom at one point, maybe a promotional, and then AMT altered it at some point in time to make it more of a model kit instead of a promotional model by adding in this radiator wall and radiator, as well as the battery. And down here's our firewall going into our completed interior tub. They show the heater motor on this side and potentially the brake booster for your powered brakes. Over here we have the windshield installation with the windshield going up into the body shell, your assembled radiator wall coming up into here, and your rear view mirror. Always remember where these contact to scrape away the paint so that you get the plastic to plastic gluing surface. Now here we have the body, fully assembled body dropping into the fully assembled interior with the firewall. And then here we also have, in step 9, our hood being hinged into the body, and the grille divider going into your chrome grille here, which goes onto the body in the front. Turning the instruction sheet over, much like my Bonneville kit, you also get these great fender skirts that are on here, as well as your rear bumper, your 2 taillights, and you have a choice of decal 1 or 2 for your license plate. Note, fender skirts are optional. If you use them, do not cement into position until after the axles and wheels are installed. So that's how you got to do it. Here is the chassis, which is a solid one piece with the lowering holes here for custom or lowrider type of vehicle. There's the engine dropping into your frame, as well as the exhaust pipes going on there. There's some pretty cool looking wheels included in this kit. Let's just zoom in a bit. You have a rear wheel half as well as a front stock hubcap half. Goodyear tires, so these would go through. So you're going to push one of these through from the back and one to the front. Remember, scrape the chrome away from the contact surfaces. And then here we still have our stock rear wheel, or wheel backs, pardon me. And then these really cool custom chromed wheels. Okay, so getting back to this direction here. This is the axles, wheels, and chassis assembly. So again, we have wire axles, which go into the holes in your wheel backs. And the wheels push together. And finally, there's our body dropping right onto our chassis. And you put the decal in the front. So it also says carefully align the body with chassis and cement together. And they also note that now is the time to put in your fender skirts if you're going to use them. So again, another really great instruction sheet. Simple to follow, easy build. Now let's get down to our actual parts. Here we have a comparison for a change. Down here we have our Pontiac Catalina body, and up top we have the Bonneville that I built back in the 80s. Now, can you spot the differences? Well, of course, here we have these nice rocker panel inserts on the Bonneville, which are not present on the Catalina. We have the Bonneville script here and an emblem here, which are not on the Catalina. Instead, it's replaced with the 2+2 and the louvers on the fenders, as well as the 421 script right here, so that everybody knows what size of engine is in the Performance Catalina 2+2. Pontiac described the 2+2 as a flying machine for people who can't stand heights. So that's how it was sold back in the day. Quite a neat marketing feature. So, as you can see, AMT has used two different bodies for essentially the same kit. So let's take a closer examination of our body down here. Alright, so with some closer examination, by bringing this up into the camera, we can see the nice detail work on these louvers. They look pretty accurate. There's our Pontiac 421 script right there, as well as the 2+2 logo. And as you can see, it's got the little crosshairs in there as well as the little lines, which is prototypical to the 2+2. On the back of our trunk lid is another 2+2 emblem. We have the Pontiac arrowhead right there on the trunk lid. And we've got the big hood opening here for our hood, which is molded on this parts tree, which also has the 2+2 right in there. The hood does fit nicely, as you could see on the Bonneville kit, with little to no gaps. Although one thing I will recommend, if you can get some evergreen styrene strips, cut this out of here of course, but glue the strips along here with a little coming out overlapping here, so that when the hood rests in that hole, it's going to actually be sitting on something along the sides. I've done this many times, and it actually helps you to stop pushing your hood into the hood opening on your model kit when you're trying to show the car to your friends. A great car like our 1965 Pontiac Catalina has to rest on a great chassis as well, and we can see here that we have a full perimeter frame style of chassis with our independent rear suspension and front axles sitting right here. Now, as I was saying, this car would have been part of a promotional car originally. Here, in these two areas, we can see blanks where there was at one point 2 holes on our chassis, where you would have screwed this to the pegs and posts of the body of the car. And here, if we look carefully on our gas tank, there's 2 little sunken areas that have been filled in. It's a good reconstruction in these 2 areas on the half of AMT, but these would have been actually sunken down, and holes for us to screw the car to the body. So I'm just going to lift this up to the camera here so that you can check out all our great detail. And you can see here all the floor pan details, as well as there are some wires here. These would be our brake lines going to the brakes, nicely molded in there. Even though this is a one-piece undercarriage, you can see crisp detail. The rear axle is a little bit thick looking compared to what it probably was on the real car. Okay, there's the little ridges there and there where the holes would have been filled in at the AMT factory in the molds. There's all the little clips. The extension for the fuel filter. So this would have gone curved up a bit and gone through the license plate. You fill up your big gas tank. And of course we've got all these nice rivets here underneath the apron. Then again, there's the whole blanked up holes there. And if we turn this to the side, you can see our two locating holes so that we can raise and lower our suspension if we wish. And turning this over, you can see it's not too much going on in these fender aprons here, but there's the two bumps for mounting the engine oil pan in, and here for our radiator wall. And now we have the famous 421 Pontiac, which was tuned by the Bobcat boys from Royal Pontiac in Michigan. Actually, we don't know if this one was tuned, but we can pretend for sure. Okay, so actually they couldn't tune this, it's just a blob of plastic, but our 1/25th scale Bobcat boys could do it. Anyway, so this engine has a huge gaping hole right through the sides of it. Well, that of course is for our wire axles, which is very typical of the screw bottom kits of the era. We will take a look at the chassis, and I'm going to show you some stuff on that, but this is a pretty accurate Pontiac transmission. Here we have our exhaust manifolds. We have our cylinder heads, left and right, the battery, the alternator with a mounting bracket, which is quite rare on these kits. 64 Chevy Impala has one as well, but some of them just have an alternator that is held in outer space on the end of the pulleys, with no visible support. There's our fan, there's our pulleys. Here we have our air cleaner. There's the exhaust pipe little extensions that go off the manifolds. Here we have our intake manifold for the single 4-barrel carburetor that this air cleaner is from, as well as our manifold for the tri-carburetor model. Now we have these two part trees. This one contains our firewall as well as our rad support. There's your heater motor and your brake master cylinder. There's the center brace for your grille with the little Pontiac arrowhead on it. Then here we have our front and rear wheel backs. Now some of these have a longer tube here, I guess you'd call it. So these two are shorter than this one, so one of these would be in the front and one of them would be in the back. And then here we have our radiator. Now here we have a few more parts from our parts trees. Of course we have our hood here and our bucket seats with the console molded all as one piece. There's our left and right fender skirts, and here we have our 3-spoked steering wheel, which is a pretty nice representation of the actual Pontiac Catalina steering wheel. Now if we turn this over, you can see our fireproof mat underneath the hood. There are some mold marks in here that you of course have to take out with your number 16 a hobby blade. The seats have the nice center console and includes the gear shift pattern in here. This one actually looks like an automatic style, which is interesting. Alright, so let's take a look at our interior tub here. Now again, what's interesting is the transmission on the Pontiac Catalina is a standard transmission, and here again we have an automatic type with the pedals. So you'll have to actually make 2 new pedals. You could use evergreen styrene for that. Just get rid of this one pedal here, which is your brake, and redo them. Okay, so there's some nice detail in the seats. Nice little bit of tuck and roll going in here. The Pontiac arrowhead right up in there, as well as our door panels, which are pretty decent considering the way that they have to mold this with their mold. There's the loops here that hook into the underneath of the body. Next up we have our glass, and this is just a one-piece glass. There are no headlights in this model kit, but here you can see that in here it says Bonneville, and that would share the windshield with the Pontiac Bonneville that I built from the Prestige series. Here you can see the little loops for attaching our glass on the inside of the car, and here's 2 little notches in the front on the windshield where our hood hinges would pass around. And here we have my favorite parts of the model kit. This, of course, is the chrome tree, although sadly there's not as much chrome in this as there is, say, in the AMT 1940 Ford sedan kit with all the customized pieces. Here it's pretty bare bones. However, we do get 4 beautiful stock or custom hubcaps. Then here we have our 4 stock hubcaps. The nicely molded front bumper and headlight combination. So you're going to have to make a wash in here. A nice mixture just to bring out these headlights. And then here we've got our shift levers, and there's the valve covers, the rear view mirror, the 4 air cleaners for our tri-carb setup, and a sun tachometer. What's kind of cool about this kit is they have pressed in Pontiac in where the rear license plate goes. So sadly though, my rear bumper came loose. So let's just move this up to the camera here. Let it focus in so you can see how cool this rear bumper looks. See there it says Pontiac. So it's kind of nice, but sort of a shame that that has to get covered up with a license plate. But anyway, you can always leave a license plate off if you want. It's got a sunken in area here and here for your red rear taillights, and you'll have to scrape the chrome around there when you glue it in. So usually I'll just turn this up like this and scrape in the top part where no one can see it. I know a lot of people out there use the Elmer's school glue in there, but I'd like to have my stuff glued in permanently. So I get very careful with the Tester's liquid glue on a paintbrush. Alright, so I'll move that out of the way, and I'll bring up the front bumper. Try to get the camera to focus in on this here. There we go. So there you can see the nice detail. That detail in the headlights is pretty accurate. You know, a lot of people don't like the molded in headlights here because you've got to make them not look like just blobs of chrome. But I will say one thing about this. The headlights are in the right type of location. So they are horizontal lines and vertical lines going that way, right? When you have to do your own clear plastic headlights, I've seen many people, even in shows, where they have the headlights slightly crooked or turned, I guess. The nice thing about these being molded in is that the headlights are always aligned. So anyway, despite having to fix up and tint it to make it look like a real headlight, at least you have them aligned. Okay. Oh, I think these little side things are some kind of exhaust dumps. Anyway, there we can see our nice hubcaps there, factory stock ones. We'll move over here. You can see the nice, almost reversed rim type chrome wheels. Not really reversed though. And there's our valve covers in the mirror, and our tri-carbs here, and of course our little tiny air cleaners in there. So again, very beautiful work done by AMT. And here we have the tires for our 1965 Pontiac Catalina, and they are Goodyear G7015's custom wide tread polyglass tires. These tires are pretty cool. As you can see, they have a nice tread pattern in here, and they are easy to sand out and make them look perfect. You could also paint in a little red wall right on this ridge that's in here on the tires. And we also get our metal axles here, and in the same bag are 2 red Pontiac taillights. And finally we have our decal sheet with 2 New Mexico 2+2 license plates, as well as 2 1962 Illinois Deuces license plates. And that concludes our review of the 1965 Pontiac 2+2. Well, I hope you enjoyed that amazing video of our Pontiac 2x2, and I wish you success in finding one of these great model kits out there in internet land or wherever local hobby shop you can find this baby. Because this one's mine, it goes back on my shelf. My retirement, you see. I have to build these once I close the hobby shop. Dun dun dun! That's not ever going to happen. So anyway, before we go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Pound that notification bell so that every time I make a new video, you are one of the first people to ever see it in the entire world. And let's get this thing up to 100 likes. And until next time, happy model building.